Let's go to line 1 now, where Sue Dyer is waiting. Sue, I know you want to talk about the Lower Churchill, but I got to ask you about this story I read about pharmacies providing services like flu shots and the like. Is there any reason why we shouldn't be doing that in this province?
When we did the Wade-Locke study, was a year ago, which was submitted to government, all that's in there.
Okay.
And the reason it's going to make headlines and probably get what it gets is because Shoppers Drug Mart said it.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about that a little further. Certainly I'll call and talk about that, and also the listing of Shoppers Drug Mart drugs being on our formulary when Ontario's court has struck that down.
Okay.
But, regarding the Lower Churchill, Pete, I'd like to start with the line that's coming from Labrador to service the island. I have no idea whatsoever, and there can be no logic put forth to me as to why Emera owns any of that.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at that as well. Initially, I thought it was just the maritime link, but then the line to Labrador as well as part of that, and they essentially get an equity position, don't they? This is what people were saying. It's the start of the privatization of hydro in their minds.
Yeah, well, see, when we're talking about the maritime link, that's one thing.
Yeah.
When it costs, it's our own distribution or transmission system. Then, of course, it becomes, if it's going to go to Emera, it is a privatization issue. And the question then becomes, we have a system here in the province where Hydro does Labrador, Newfoundland Labrador Hydro does parts of the island, Newfoundland Power does the rest with respect to distribution. That has been our system, from the beginning. There it is. It's done. Now, why is Emera getting into and making money from Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and their power? But for what purpose are we adding another level? Because Emera has to get something back on this, right?
Does that continue on past the 35 years?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, no.
Sure, someone would know that, obviously. But there's no logic, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's Emera getting a chunk of change from us for no purpose, other than they make more money. It does nothing for the consumer.
That's reason enough for them, I'm sure.
Oh, sure, it's great for them, it's great for the shareholder. But from a consumer perspective and from our own asset and what we own, sure, it's the start of the privatization. Are they going to take over all the distribution lines? What exactly is Emera up to? Are they going to be doing Hydro's distribution in the Northern Peninsula South Coast? Are they going to take over that? I mean, what is their plan as it relates to this? Because it makes no sense. On another note, with respect to the power being required or needed on the island side, I've yet to see still anything that proves to me that we actually need the power, that we don't have the resources on the island to do what we need to do, that in fact, in order to use less of Holyrood and more of renewable power, we have enough on the island to deal with that. I mean, Pete, how many industries are shut down anyway? How many schools, clinics, fish plants, paper mills, how much industry is shut down?
This has been a curious thing for me as well. They've been wrong in the past in their projections for a start.
Yes.
But they've also not really explained why there isn't enough power, especially when the extra line is coming across now from Bay to Spare.
Right.
I mean, that has been the problem, that there's power. They're letting water go over the dam there when we could be using it instead of Holyrood power. That's going to be remedied, it seems. And I'm for the life of me, I've always said I don't understand. I've seen what the people who've investigated this and came back and said that, yes, indeed, we need more power, have said, but it still doesn't make sense to me.
Well, Pete, I have to remind everybody, because the hydro reports are available, that is to say they're public, from the 70s forward. So in the 80s we were going to run out. In the 90s we were going to run out. 2000 for sure we're going to run out. No, we haven't run out. Our population declined. It was 586,000 there back in 1990. So 1990, we had 586,000. We are less than that. We have all these industries closed down. We have hydro potential here in the province that's not being utilized. And certainly we can't be spending $7-8 billion to remove Holyrood.
Well, Holyrood's going to still be here. It's still going to be there. We're still going to be doing whatever it takes to keep it available, even after Muskrat Falls is online.
It's a redundancy. Why would we be doing the things like it makes no sense? And here's the problem, is that this project is being paid for by the consumers. For what purpose? If we don't need the power, then what are we doing paying for the power? Now, from the industrial perspective, the best industrial potential in this province is in Labrador. And the best industrial potential has to do with mines and secondary processing involving minerals. Mm-hmm. So why is the concentration not there so that an industrial partner could pay for the power as it should pay for the power? Why isn't that being done? Why are we, trying to justify this by sending power from Labrador over to the island, and to make matters worse, parts of Labrador not even being electrified by hydro? Mm-hmm. It's just absolute absurdity.
Well, the notion, of course, is that in time, well down the road, after the fossil fuels are all gone, that we're going to be realizing a tremendous amount of income from sale of hydropower elsewhere, because by that time, presumably, we'll have not only Muskrat Falls, but Gull Island online as well.
Well, Gull Island can't go across the lines.
Well, they say now it can.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I don't know how that works, how it can't one day and then can the next. But
well, remember now, too, they're already saying that they're talking to Quebec again. Mm-hmm. Now that we've got Muskrat in the bag for Emera, now it's okay to talk to Quebec again. What a first. Well, if that was the case, why not talk to them on the first end of the project? If you're going to punish them with Muskrat, you're going to surprise them with glee on Gull Island? It makes no sense.
Well, maybe we had to have another option for when 2041 rolls around, so that we weren't essentially held to ransom again. I don't know, is that part of the thinking here?
Well, the water rights run out in 2041. Mm-hmm. The contract runs out in 2041.
Yeah.
And the water rights, let's say, being held by CFLCO.
But if we can't get that power out of there any other way, then what was our option? Unless we had a link down from the Upper Churchill down through essentially to, the island and on to the Maritimes.
Yeah, but Pete, let's just say our contract expires between CFLCO and Hydro-Quebec. Mm-hmm. The water rights have not expired for CFLCO, and that's owned 1/3 by Hydro-Quebec. Mm-hmm. They have management rights of over 50%. There has to be, in other words, there can be a veto from Quebec. I'm not convinced we can have access to that power in 2041.
There's no veto with 30%, though.
Pardon?
There's no veto with 30%. If they only control it by 30%, they're in the majority.
No,
the minority, I mean.
No, there is, absolutely, because Hydro-Quebec, the contract now, as it sits, mm-hmm. is there has to be an approval by one director, at least one director from Hydro-Quebec. That's the thing that Dean MacDonald and Brian Tobin changed.
Until it expires.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
We don't know. Again, what are we going to do with the water rights? There's going to be a challenge on the water rights. This thing, and the politicians are not very clear on 2041. Mm-hmm. It's talked about as a panacea, but it's not really explained out very well.
Yeah, and that may very well end up being a political decision as opposed to a legal one, because that's the way these things go, essentially. Whoever has the upper hand, and we know we certainly don't have the upper hand when it comes to decisions on the federal scene. We could very well be up against it again. So we got to go to our break. I apologize for nipping this short, but we can pick it up again for sure, even later today, because it looks like I'm going to be here.
Right. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Bye.